I took my daughter to dance class, and the moms got me banned for being creepy until they learned the truth. My 7-year-old Sophie started ballet at Miss Janet's Academy after begging me for months. I'm a tattoo artist. Heavily inked arms, beard, leather jacket, definitely not your typical dance parent material. Walking into that pristine studio felt like entering another world. Pastel walls, classical music, and perfectly put together moms in designer workout clothes. Then there's me looking like I rolled off a Harley. First class, I settle into a corner chair with my worn leather notebook, sketching while Sophie attempts her first pliés. The stairs start immediately. Whispered conversations behind manicured hands. One mom not so subtly takes a photo of me with her phone. Is that man drawing our children? I hear someone hiss. Second week gets worse. I'm focused on my sketches when a blonde mom in Lululemon marches over. Excuse me, but why are you constantly writing things down about our daughters? Her voice carries across the entire studio. I try explaining that I'm just sketching, but she interrupts. That's exactly what a predator would say. I've been watching you document which girls are the most flexible. The other moms gather around, forming a protective circle. My face burns with embarrassment as Sophie watches from across the room, confused by the commotion. Miss Janet, the studio owner, pulls me aside after class. Several parents have expressed concerns about your notebook. I'm going to have to ask you to stop bringing it or find alternative arrangements for Sophie's transportation. When I try to explain what I'm actually doing, she holds up her hand. I understand you love your daughter, but we have to prioritize everyone's comfort here. Week 3, the situation explodes. A mom claims she saw me rating the children's abilities in my book. Another insists I've been casing the joint for months. Miss Janet calls me into her office with 2 other mothers flanking her like bodyguards. I'm sorry, but effective immediately. You're no longer welcome in our viewing area. Several parents have threatened to pull their children if we don't take action. I'm devastated. Sophie doesn't understand why Daddy suddenly can't watch her dance anymore. She sees me waving from the parking lot, pressing her little face against the window with tears in her eyes. 2 weeks later, disaster strikes. It's recital day, and Sophie's costume completely rips during dress rehearsal. The delicate tulle skirt tears away from the bodice, leaving her sobbing backstage in her leotard. Miss Janet frantically searches for solutions. No costume shops are open on Sunday. The other moms attempt repairs with safety pins and tape, but it's hopeless. Finally, in desperation, Miss Janet calls me. Please, I know this is awkward, but Sophie is heartbroken. Is there any way you could help? You're our only option. I rush to the studio with my emergency sewing kit, professional grade, supplies I always keep in my truck for leather work. The same moms who banned me watch in stunned silence as I carefully examine Sophie's destroyed costume. Working quickly, I hand-stitch the tear with nearly invisible thread, then add delicate embellishments I've been planning for weeks. Tiny roses along the neckline, subtle beading that catches the stage lights perfectly. Sophie's costume transforms from simple pink tulle into something magical. The other moms gather around, mouths agape as I put finishing touches on what now looks like a professional costume designer's creation. That's when Miss Janet asks to see my notebook. Page after page reveals detailed costume sketches. Not creepy notes about children, but elaborate designs for every girl in the class. Measurements I'd estimated by eye, fabric suggestions, color combinations that would complement each child's features. While everyone admires the designs, Sophie's original costume catches my eye. The rip wasn't along a seam like I initially thought. Someone cut it, deliberately with scissors. I turn the fabric over in my hands, and Miss Janet sees it too. Her face goes white. The other moms lean in, and that's when we notice something else. 3 other costumes hanging on the rack behind us, all with identical scissor marks hidden in the folds, and every single one belongs to the daughters of the moms who defended me. Miss Janet backs away from me slowly, and I realize they all think I cut those costumes as revenge against the families who defended me, because now I look like exactly the predator they warned everyone about. The room goes dead silent. I can actually hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Miss Janet's backing up like I'm about to lunge at her or something, and the other moms are starting to position themselves between me and their daughters backstage. I'm holding Sophie's costume in my hands, the evidence of sabotage right there in the fabric, but all they see is a creepy tattooed guy with scissors marks on children's clothing. Wait, I start to say, but honestly, what am I supposed to say? That I just happened to discover someone sabotaged 4 costumes right after I got access backstage? That sounds guilty as hell, even to my own ears. Sophie's voice cuts through the tension like a knife. Miss Janet's assistant was back here earlier. Everyone turns to look at her. She's standing in the doorway to the dressing area, still in her leotard, eyes wide and confused by all the adults acting weird. What do you mean, sweetie? Miss Janet asks. But her voice has this edge to it now, like she's trying to sound calm but isn't. Bree, Sophie says. She was by the costume rack with scissors. I saw her cutting loose threads off the costumes. She said she was helping. The moms exchange these uncertain glances, and I watch Miss Janet's expression shift from fear to something else. Something that looks almost like recognition, but she shuts it down fast. Bree was doing alterations earlier, Miss Janet says quickly. Too quickly. She was helping me fix some hem issues. That's completely normal, Sophie. But here's the thing. Miss Janet won't look at me. She's staring at the wall, eyeball at the floor at the other moms, anywhere but directly at me. And I've been reading people for 15 years in my tattoo shop. I know what guilt looks like. These cuts aren't from alterations, I say carefully, holding up the fabric so everyone can see. Look at the angle. Someone cut through the bodice attachment deliberately. You don't do that fixing hems. One of the other moms, this redhead whose daughter is Sophie's friend, reaches for one of the other damaged costumes. She examines it closely, then looks at me with this weird expression. He's right. This isn't a repair cut. This is sabotage. I finish for her. Miss Janet's face goes pale. We don't have time for this. The recital starts in 45 minutes. She turns to me with this forced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. You're already here, and you clearly have the skills. Can you repair the other 3 costumes? I know it's asking a lot after everything, but we're desperate. It's not really a request. It's more like she's trying to keep me busy so I don't pursue this conversation about who actually destroyed the costumes. But Sophie's looking at me with those hopeful eyes, and I know if I don't fix these costumes, 3 other little girls are going to be heartbroken today. Yeah, I say. I'll fix them. The moms hover around me like hawks while I work. Every move I make gets scrutinized. I thread my needle and someone leans in to watch. I measure a piece of tulle and 2 moms exchange worried glances. It's exhausting being treated like a criminal while literally saving their daughter's recital. But as I repair each costume, something becomes really clear. The cuts are identical. Same angle, same depth, same placement along the bodice seam. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They have sewing knowledge, technical knowledge about costume construction. This wasn't some random act of vandalism. I finished the last costume about 20 minutes before showtime. The moms take their daughters backstage to help them dress, still casting suspicious looks my way. Miss Janet tells me I should probably sit in the back of the auditorium, away from the other parents, for everyone's comfort. So that's where I end up. Back row, corner seat, watching my daughter perform through a crowd of judgmental parents who think I'm a predator who sabotages children's clothing for revenge. The irony isn't lost on me. Strategize narrative expansion from existing plot points to reach target length. The user wants me to continue from here using the plot points. Let me work through them naturally with dialogue and conversational tone. I need to make this around 100,000 characters total. The short story is about 5,800 characters, so I need to write roughly 94,000 more characters to reach 100,000. Let me continue with the plot points while maintaining natural storytelling. Sophie's group performs beautifully. She nails every move, and when the stage lights hit her costume, those little rose embellishments I added catch the light exactly like I planned. For just a minute, I forget about everything else and just feel proud of my kid. That's when I notice Bree standing in the wings. She's Miss Janet's teenage assistant, maybe 17 or 18, and she's watching the performance with this odd expression on her face. She keeps dabbing at her eyes with her sleeve, but not in a happy crying way. More like a guilty way, if that makes sense. When Sophie's group finishes and takes their bows, Bree slips out the back exit. She's moving fast, deliberately trying not to be seen. And I don't know why, but something about her behavior just clicks in my head. The way she avoided eye contact earlier, how Miss Janet shut down Sophie's comment about Bree being near the costumes. That guilty look. I get up and follow her. The parking lot's mostly empty since everyone's inside watching the recital. I spot Bree next to this beat-up sedan, and she's full-on crying now. Her whole body's shaking with sobs. I approach carefully, not wanting to scare her. Hey, are you okay? She jumps about a foot in the air and spins around, eyes wide. When she sees it's me, she actually looks terrified. I need to go. Wait! I hold up my hands to show I'm not a threat. I just want to talk. You were crying. Is everything all right? She's shaking her head, backing toward her car. I can't talk to you. I'm not supposed to talk to anyone. About the costumes? I ask gently, and that's when she breaks down completely. Just collapses against her car door and slides down to sit on the pavement, crying so hard she can barely breathe. I sit down a few feet away from her, giving her space. It's okay. Whatever happened, it's okay. It's not okay, she chokes out between sobs. I did something really bad, and now you're getting blamed for it, and I don't know what to do. My stomach drops. You cut the costumes. She nods, still crying. I cut them, not you. You've been nothing but nice this whole time, and I let everyone think you did it, and I'm such a terrible person. Why? I ask. Why would you do that? She wipes her nose on her sleeve, looking absolutely miserable. Miss Janet promised me a real job. I've been volunteering here for 8 months, doing everything she asks. Setting up, breaking down, helping with costumes, teaching the little kids basic positions. She kept saying soon, Bree. Very soon we'll make this official. And I believed her. What changed? Last week she hired someone else. Some woman from the next town over who has no experience with kids, but apparently her mom goes to Miss Janet's church or something. Miss Janet didn't even tell me. I found out when the new woman showed up and Miss Janet introduced her as the new paid assistant. She laughs bitterly. 8 months of free labor, and I wasn't even worth a heads up. I can feel my jaw clenching. I've known people like Miss Janet, people who exploit young workers with promises they never intend to keep. So you cut the costumes, I say. Not just any costumes, Bree says, and there's anger in her voice now behind the tears. I cut the costumes belonging to daughters of the wealthiest families, the ones whose mothers donated thousands of dollars to the studio, the ones who treat me like I'm invisible unless they need me to fetch them water or find their daughter's shoes. She looks at me directly for the first time. I wanted to sabotage the recital. I wanted to hurt Miss Janet's reputation with the families who matter most to her. I wanted them to see that this studio isn't as perfect and professional as she pretends it is. But you didn't expect me to be able to fix them, I say. She shakes her head. I didn't think anyone would be able to fix them in time. I thought the recital would be ruined, and those rich moms would pull their kids and their money, and Miss Janet would finally face consequences for how she treats people. Why didn't you cut Sophie's costume then? I ask. Her family's not wealthy, obviously. Bree looks down at her hands. I did cut Sophie's costume. My blood runs cold. What? But I cut it cleanly, she says quickly. I made it look like an accident, like the seam just gave out. The other three I made obvious. Jagged cuts, multiple points of damage. I wanted those to look like sabotage, but Sophie's, she trails off. Why? Because I've been watching you for weeks, she admits. Sitting there sketching in your notebook while everyone treated you like garbage. I saw your designs one day when you left the notebook on your chair. They were beautiful, professional level, and I thought, she laughs sadly, I thought maybe if Sophie's costume broke in a way that looked accidental, you might get called in to help. And maybe, just maybe, someone kind would finally get credit for something good at the studio. I don't know what to say. She sabotaged my daughter's costume, but with the intention of giving me a chance to prove myself. It's twisted, but also kind of sad. It backfired, Bree continues. When you found all 4 costumes were cut, everyone immediately assumed you did it for revenge. I made you look exactly like what those moms accused you of being, and I'm so sorry. We sit in silence for a minute. Inside the studio, I can hear applause. Another group must have finished their dance. You need to make this right, I tell her. She looks up at me with panic in her eyes. If I tell Miss Janet, she'll tell everyone. I'll never get hired anywhere in this town. Dance is the only thing I'm good at, and she'll make sure I'm blacklisted from every studio within 50 miles. You're 17, right? 18? 17. I turn 18 in 2 months. So, you're a minor who made a bad decision because an adult exploited your labor and strung you along for months. That context matters. She's shaking her head frantically. It doesn't matter. What I did was criminal. Destruction of property. If they press charges, they won't, I say, though I'm not entirely sure. But the truth has to come out somehow. I can't walk around with everyone thinking I'm the kind of person who would hurt kids. I know. She's crying again. I know, and I'm sorry, but I don't know how to fix this without destroying my entire future. I think for a minute. We'll figure something out together, but Bree, you can't let me take the blame for this. That's not negotiable. She nods miserably and we sit there in the parking lot while our daughters dance inside. Eventually, we go back in separately. I take my seat in the back row and Bree disappears somewhere backstage. The recital continues, group after group of little girls in sparkly costumes performing their choreographed routines. My mind's racing the whole time, trying to figure out how to handle this. If I expose Bree publicly, she's right about her future being destroyed. She's just a kid who got treated badly and made a terrible choice. But if I don't say anything, my reputation at the studio is permanently trashed. After the recital ends, the parents flood the lobby. Some of them actually approach me now, offering these stiff apologies for the misunderstanding earlier. The redhead mom whose daughter is Sophie's friend comes up and thanks me for saving the recital, though she still looks uncomfortable making eye contact. Then the blonde Lululemon mom, Jessica, walks over. She's holding her daughter's hand, and she looks like she'd rather be anywhere else right now. I wanted to thank you, she says formally, like she's reading from a script. What you did today for these girls was very kind. You're welcome, I say, matching her stiff tone. I may have been too hasty in my judgment before. She glances at her daughter, then back at me. I still think there were valid concerns about a strange man documenting children, but I can see now that your intentions were good. It's not really an apology, more like a sorry you got offended non-apology, but I accept it with a nod because Sophie's watching and I don't want to make a scene. Sophie runs up to me still in her costume, beaming. Daddy, did you see? Did you see my pirouette? I didn't wobble at all. I scoop her up in a hug. You were perfect, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. As we're leaving, I catch Bree's eye across the lobby. She's helping clean up programs and water bottles, her face blotchy from crying earlier. When she sees me looking, she quickly looks away. That night, after I put Sophie to bed, I sit at my kitchen table and try to figure out what to do. I could tell the truth and destroy a 17-year-old's future. I could stay silent and let everyone think I'm a creep who sabotages children's clothing. Or I could find some middle ground that makes this right without completely ruining Bree's life. By the time I fall asleep around 2 a.m., I have a plan. It's not perfect, but it might work. The next morning, I drive to Miss Janet's studio during off hours. Her car's in the lot, which means she's probably inside doing paperwork or prepping for the week ahead. The front door's unlocked, so I walk in. Miss Janet's in her office, laptop open, looking stressed. When she sees me, she visibly tenses. We need to talk, I say. If this is about yesterday, it's about what really happened with the costumes. And you're going to want to hear this. She closes her laptop slowly. I'm listening. I sit down across from her without being invited. I know who actually cut those costumes, and I know why. Her face goes pale, like all the color color just drains out of it in a second. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. Because when Sophie mentioned Bree being near the costumes with scissors, you shut that conversation down real quick. You knew. Maybe not for sure, but you suspected. Miss Janet's jaw tightens. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, it's the truth. Bree told me everything last night in the parking lot. I lean forward. She told me about the 8 months of unpaid labor, the promises you made, the job you gave to someone else without even telling her. Bree was a volunteer, Miss Janet says defensively. She knew it was volunteer work. I never guaranteed her a paid position. But you implied it. You kept her working with vague promises of soon and we'll make it official. You used her. I didn't use anyone. I can't afford to pay everyone who wants to work here. This studio barely breaks even most months. Then you should have been honest with her from the start, I say. You should have told her there was no paid position available instead of stringing her along, because that's what led to this. A 17-year-old girl felt so used and betrayed that she sabotaged your recital. Miss Janet's silent for a long moment. What does she want? Money? Is she going to sue me? She doesn't want anything except to not have her entire future destroyed. And I have a proposal that protects everyone involved. I lay out my plan. Bree will privately apologize and do real community service at the studio for 6 months, actually volunteering this time with zero expectation of payment. In exchange, Miss Janet doesn't tell anyone what happened. No police, no parents, no public drama. Miss Janet's shaking her head before I even finish. That lets her off way too easy. She could have destroyed the studio's reputation, and you exploited a minor for free labor. I counter. You think that would look good if it came out? Parents finding out you strung along a teenager with false promises for 8 months? She flinches. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And if you report Bree, I guarantee that context will come out. In court, in the local paper, in every parent's mind when they're deciding whether to re-enroll their kids here. Miss Janet's silent, and I can see her calculating the risk. Finally, she says, fine, but you deserve consequences too. I actually laugh. Me? For what? For causing all this stress. For making everyone uncomfortable with your notebook and your... She gestures at me vaguely. Your appearance. I was sketching costume designs to help your studio, for free. And when your recital was about to fall apart, I fixed 4 costumes in under 30 minutes, while band parents screamed at me. I stand up. You're in no position to make demands about my consequences. She looks like she wants to argue but can't find the words. We stare at each other for a long moment. Do we have a deal? I ask. She nods reluctantly. 6 months of community service. Real work, not just busy tasks. And if she steps out of line even once, the deal's off. Fair enough. I leave the studio feeling like I've just negotiated a hostage situation, which in a way I guess I have. Over the next week, word spreads through the Dance Mom network about how I saved the recital. Suddenly, the same women who wanted me banned are approaching me with requests for custom costume work. Can you design something for my daughter's solo? Would you be interested in making costumes for our studio's Nutcracker production? How much do you charge per costume? It's wild how fast people's opinions can change when you prove yourself useful. I politely decline most of them. I'm not interested in working for people who treated me like a predator just because I didn't fit their aesthetic expectations. But there are a few families whose daughters are actually Sophie's friends, kids who've been kind to her from the start, and I agree to help them. One of those families belongs to the redhead mom, whose daughter is Sophie's best friend. She approaches me after class one day with genuine embarrassment on her face. I wanted to apologize, she says. Not the fake corporate apology I gave you at the recital, a real one. I went along with the groupthink, and that was wrong. You didn't deserve to be treated that way. I appreciate that, I say, and I mean it. This feels like an actual apology. My daughter Ava has a competition coming up. Would you consider designing her costume? I'll pay whatever your rate is. I think about it for a second, then nod. Yeah, let's set up a consultation. The following Tuesday, Jessica, the blonde Lululemon mom, shows up at my tattoo shop. I'm between appointments, cleaning my station, when she walks in looking completely out of place among the flash art on the walls and the buzz of tattoo machines. Can we talk? She asks. I gesture to the chair. Sure. She sits down, and for the first time since I met her, she actually looks uncomfortable instead of judgmental. I owe you a real apology, not the performative bullshit I gave you. At the recital, I raise an eyebrow. Go on. When I was 14, I had a teacher who... She trails off, looking at her hands. He did inappropriate things, said inappropriate things, and no one believed me at first because he was everyone's favorite teacher. Nice guy, good family, coach soccer on weekends. I'm sorry that happened to you. The thing is, she continues, it made me paranoid about any man in spaces with young girls. Dance class, gymnastics, cheer. I see a man in those spaces and my brain immediately goes to the worst case scenario. I get it, I say, and I do. Trauma makes you hypervigilant, but that's not an excuse for how I treated you. You were just being a good dad, and I made everyone see you as a threat. I led that charge, and I'm ashamed of it. She finally looks up at me. My daughter has a solo coming up. Would you be willing to design her costume? I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm asking anyway. I consider it. This feels like a genuine peace offering, not just someone wanting to use my skills. What's your daughter's name? Kelsey. And what's her solo about? We spend the next hour talking about costume ideas. Jessica knows her daughter's strengths as a dancer and has real insight into what would work for the routine. By the end of the conversation, I've agreed to design Kelsey's costume. As Jessica's leaving, she pauses at the door. For what it's worth, I'm going to make sure everyone knows you were right to have that notebook. I'm going to make sure people understand what you were actually doing. I appreciate that. She leaves and I get back to work, but my mind's spinning with possibilities. If I'm already doing costume work for a few families, why not make it official? Start actually advertising these services? That afternoon, Sophie tells me something that snaps me back to the Bree situation. We're eating dinner, and she's telling me about her day at school when she casually mentions, Miss Bree was crying again at dance class today. Again? Yeah, she's been crying a lot. And she leaves the room sometimes when Miss Janet talks to her. That's not good. Bree's supposed to be doing community service, not being psychologically tortured. I text Bree that night and ask if she wants to meet up somewhere neutral. She agrees to a coffee shop near the studio. When I walk in the next day, Bree's already there, hunched over a cup of tea that she's not drinking. She looks exhausted. How's the community service going? I ask, sitting across from her. She trails off, then laughs bitterly. It's hell. Talk to me. Miss Janet's making me do the worst tasks. Not just cleaning the bathrooms, which is already humiliating, but like scrubbing baseboards with a toothbrush, cleaning out the storage closet that hasn't been touched in years. Yesterday, she had me reorganizing every single costume piece by color, size, and style. And when I finished after 4 hours, she told me I did it wrong and made me start over. I feel anger rising in my chest. That's not community service, that's punishment. She's being vindictive, Bree says quietly. She knows I can't say anything or the deal's off, so she's just making my life miserable because she can. How many hours do you have left? Like 170. I'm barely making a dent because she keeps finding reasons to make me redo things. This isn't what we agreed on. Miss Janet's violating the spirit of our arrangement, even if she's technically following the letter of it. What do you actually want to do? I ask Bree. With your life, I mean. Not for Miss Janet, for yourself. She looks surprised by the question. I don't know. I thought I wanted to work in dance, but after all this, she shrugs. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. That's not what I asked. If you could do anything, what would it be? She's quiet for a minute, stirring her tea. I like costume design, she finally says. I'm not as good as you, obviously, but I like it. The creative part, figuring out how to make something beautiful that also functions for movement. Have you ever studied it, like formally? She shakes her head. My family doesn't have money for design school. I was hoping working at Miss Janet's would lead to something, but she gestures vaguely. That didn't work out. An idea starts forming in my head. What if I looked at your work? Do you have a portfolio? Her eyes widen. You want to see my designs? Yeah, why not? She pulls out her phone and swipes through photos of sketches. They're rough, definitely amateur, but there's talent there. Real understanding of movement and fabric. The proportions are good, the ideas are creative. These are impressive, I tell her honestly. Really? She looks like she doesn't believe me. Really, you need training, but the raw talent is there. You've got an eye for color and movement that can't be taught. She's staring at me like I just told her she could fly. I have more at home, like actual physical sketches in a portfolio. Would you want to see them? Yeah, I would. We make plans to meet at the studio after hours when we could look at her work without anyone else around. I'm starting to think there might be a way to turn this whole disaster into something productive. The next evening, I meet Bree at Miss Janet's studio. It's weird being there after everyone's gone. The lights dimmed, no sound except our footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Bree pulls out a large portfolio from one of the storage rooms, and we spread her sketches across the floor of the main studio. There must be 50 designs here, ranging from classical ballet costumes to contemporary pieces to elaborate fantasy-inspired creations. Bree, I say, genuinely impressed. These are really good. You don't have to. I'm not just being nice. Look at this one. I hold up a sketch of a forest fairy costume with layered organza wings. The way you've structured these wings, they'd actually work in movement. Most amateur designers would make them too heavy or rigid, but you've thought about weight distribution. She's blushing now. I watch a lot of dance. I think about what would actually function versus what just looks pretty on paper. We spend the next hour going through her portfolio. I point out what's working and what needs improvement. She's receptive to feedback, asks smart questions, and doesn't get defensive when I critique something. You should apply to design programs, I tell her. Community college has a good fashion and costume design program. It's affordable and you could work part-time while you study. She's shaking her head before I finish. I can't. My family needs me to work full-time after high school. My mom's disabled and my younger brother needs help with. She cuts herself off. It doesn't matter. College isn't an option. What if you could make money doing costume design? Would that count as work? I mean, yeah, but I'm not good enough to get commissions. No one's going to hire a 17-year-old with no experience. I might, I say. She looks at me like I've grown a second head. What? I'm getting more costume requests than I can handle on my own. My tattoo work pays the bills, but the costume stuff is becoming a real side business. I could use someone who understands dance and has design skills. After what I did to you? She looks like she might cry again. Why would you even consider that? Because everyone deserves a second chance. And because your talent shouldn't be wasted just because you made one terrible mistake. I pause. You sabotage those costumes because you felt used and undervalued. How do you think you'll feel in 5 years if you never pursue what you're actually good at? She's definitely crying now, but in a different way than before. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. I'm not offering you a job right now. I'm offering to mentor you, teach you what I know, let you help with projects, build up your portfolio and skills, then you can decide what to do next. She nods, wiping her eyes. Okay, yeah, I'll think about it. As we're packing up her sketches, I notice Miss Janet's car pulling into the parking lot. Shit, we shouldn't be here this late. Bree sees it too and panics. She's going to think we're doing something wrong. She already hates me. Relax. We're just looking at costume designs. That's not against any rules. But when Miss Janet walks in and sees us sitting on the floor surrounded by sketches, her expression goes cold. What's going on here? She demands. I'm looking at Bree's portfolio, I say calmly. She's got real talent. Miss Janet's eyes narrow. Bree is supposed to be doing community service, not having portfolio reviews. Her community service is during studio hours. This is after hours, on her own time. This is my studio. Everything that happens here is my business. She turns to Bree. Did you ask permission to be here after closing? Bree shrinks under her glare. No, but I have keys. You gave me keys months ago for opening and closing. Keys for work purposes, not for— Miss Janet gestures at the sketches scattered around us. Whatever this is. I stand up, putting myself between Miss Janet and Bree. This is a conversation about costume design, the same thing you desperately needed me to do during your recital. That was an emergency. This is inappropriate. How is mentoring a talented young designer inappropriate? Miss Janet's face flushes. You don't know her. You don't know what she's capable of. I know exactly what she's capable of, I say evenly. I also know what you're capable of, and right now, you're the one acting inappropriately. We stare at each other for a long moment. Finally, Miss Janet says, Bree, I want you to leave, now. Bree scrambles to gather her sketches, shoving them back into her portfolio with shaking hands. I help her, and we walk out together, leaving Miss Janet alone in her studio. In the parking lot, Bree turns to me with wide eyes. She's going to make the rest of my community service unbearable. Probably, I agree, but here's what I'm thinking. You've already done, 30 hours? 32. And she's been making you do degrading busy work that has nothing to do with the actual offense. That's not what we agreed on. So what do? We renegotiate. Tomorrow, I'm going back to Miss Janet, and we're going to have a conversation about what appropriate community service actually looks like. The next morning, I show up at Miss Janet's studio during her office hours. She's not happy to see me. I thought we were done talking, she says. We are. Now I'm here to enforce the agreement we already made. I sit down without being invited. The deal was that Bree does community service related to the offense, dance-related tasks that contribute to the studio. What you've been having her do is punishment labor. She destroyed property. She deserves to be punished. She made a mistake because you exploited her for 8 months. And if you keep violating our agreement, I'm going to back out of the whole thing. Miss Janet leans back in her chair. You think I'm afraid of you exposing Bree? Go ahead. Tell everyone what she did. I'll make sure the whole town knows she's a saboteur. But I'll also tell them why she did it. About the 8 months of unpaid labor, the broken promises, how you led a minor on just to get free work out of her. I lean forward. How do you think parents will react when they find out you exploit teenagers? Her face goes white. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And if you try to destroy Bree's reputation, I'll make sure everyone knows your part in creating this situation. We're in a stalemate, both holding cards that could hurt the other person. Finally, Miss Janet says, what do you want? The rest of Bree's community service needs to be actual dance-related work, helping with classes, assisting choreography, costume maintenance, things that use her skills and contribute to the studio. No more scrubbing floors with toothbrushes. Fine, Miss Janet bites out, but the 6-month timeline still stands. Agreed. I leave her office feeling like I've won something, but also like the relationship between me and this studio is permanently damaged. Which is fine, honestly. Sophie's finishing up the current session, and then we're finding a new studio anyway. Sophie's disappointed when I tell her we're switching studios next session. We're sitting at dinner, and her face falls. But all my friends are at Miss Janet's, she protests. I know, sweetheart, and you can still see them at school and have play dates. But Daddy and Miss Janet have some disagreements that make it hard for us to keep working with her. Is it because of the moms being mean to you? Kids are more perceptive than we give them credit for. Partly, yeah. That's not fair. You didn't do anything wrong. I ruffle her hair. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that don't make sense, but I found another studio that's supposed to be really good. They have a nice teacher and they do some ballet, but also contemporary and jazz. Want to try it out? She thinks about it, then nods reluctantly. Okay, but I'm going to miss my friends. I know, baby. I know. That weekend, word spreads through the dance parent network that we're leaving Miss Janet's. Several other parents reach out asking why and if they should consider other studios too. I don't badmouth Miss Janet directly, but I do say we need a better fit for our family. 3 families end up pulling their kids too. Not because of any specific issue, but because the narrator's treatment by Miss Janet and the other moms made them uncomfortable with the studio's culture. Miss Janet's apparently furious about losing students, and according to Jessica, who texts me the update, she's blaming me for deliberately trying to destroy her business. I don't respond to any of it. I just focus on Sophie and the costume design work that keeps rolling in. Jessica's become an unexpected ally. She actively shuts down gossip about me at the studio and tells anyone who'll listen that I'm a talented designer who was treated unfairly. It's like she's trying to make up for being the ringleader of my earlier persecution. One afternoon, she shows up at my shop again. I have a proposition, she says. Another costume? No, a business opportunity. She sits down and pulls out her tablet. I've been watching you work. You're getting commission requests from studios all over the region now. You're turning people away because you don't have time. That's money you're leaving on the table. I have a full-time job, I remind her. The tattoo shop pays my bills. But what if the costume design could pay your bills? Better than the tattoo shop? I lean against my station. I'm listening. I have capital to invest in business experience. You have artistic skill. Bree has dance world knowledge and growing design skills. What if we partnered to create an actual costume design business? I'm skeptical. That's a big leap from, sorry I accused you of being a predator, to, let's be business partners. She laughs. Fair, but I mean it. I've been researching the market. There's a massive demand for quality custom costume work in this region. Studios are either using cheap factory-made costumes or paying premium prices for designers from the city. There's a gap in the middle for custom quality at reasonable prices. And you think I can fill that gap? I think we can. Together. She swipes to a spreadsheet on her tablet. Look, I've done the numbers. Initial investment for supplies, rental space, marketing. We could be profitable within 6 months if we play this right. I study the spreadsheet. The numbers are actually conservative and realistic. She's thought this through. Why do you want to do this? I ask. She's quiet for a moment. Honestly, I need something that's mine. My husband makes good money and I do the whole stay-at-home mom thing, but I'm bored out of my mind. I want to build something, and I want to build it in a way that doesn't repeat Miss Janet's mistakes. What about Bree? She's 17 and she has a complicated history with this whole situation. I know about the costumes, Jessica says. I figured it out. My stomach drops. How? Process of elimination. The cuts were too professional to be random vandalism. They targeted specific families. Bree had access and motive, and you were way too invested in protecting someone. She shrugs. I'm not going to tell anyone. That kid's been through enough. But you want to do business with her. Everyone deserves a second chance. Besides, I looked at her Instagram. She posts her sketches. The girl's got talent. We talk for another hour about logistics, investment splits, business structure. By the time Jessica leaves, we've agreed to think seriously about the partnership and meet again in a week with concrete plans. That night, I call Bree and tell her about Jessica's proposition. She's silent on the other end of the line for so long, I think the call dropped. Bree, you there? You want to do business with me? Her voice is small. After what I did? You made a mistake. You're trying to make it right, and you've got skills we need. But I'm finishing high school. I can't commit full-time to anything. Part-time to start. Build up your portfolio and skills while you finish school. Then we reassess. I pause. Unless you don't want to do it. No, I mean, yes, I want to. I'm just surprised and scared. What if I mess up again? Then we'll deal with it, but I don't think you will. You've been working hard on your community service even when Miss Janet makes it hell. That shows character. We talk through the details, and by the end of the call, Bree's tentatively on board. She's still nervous about her history coming out and destroying everything, but she's willing to try. The next week, the three of us meet at a coffee shop to seriously discuss the partnership. Jessica brings printed business plans. Bree brings her portfolio. I bring sketches of potential logo designs and branding concepts. It's weird at first. The woman who led the charge to get me banned, the teenager who sabotaged costumes, and the tattooed dad everyone thought was a predator, sitting together planning a business. But as we talk through the logistics, it starts feeling real, possible. What do we call it? Bree asks. We throw around names for a while. Nothing feels right until Sophie, who I brought along because childcare fell through, pipes up from the coloring pages Jessica brought her. What about stage wings? She says, not looking up from her coloring. We all stop and look at her. Say that again, I ask. Stage wings, because costumes are like wings for dancers. They help them fly. She shrugs like it's obvious. Jessica and I exchange looks. Bree's grinning. Stage wings, Jessica repeats. That's actually perfect. Sophie beams at being helpful, and just like that, we have a name. Over the next month, we formalize the partnership. Jessica files the LLC paperwork. I start designing a logo and website. Bree begins cataloging costume materials and reaching out to suppliers for wholesale accounts. Word spreads fast in the dance community. The narrator who saved Miss Janet's recital is starting his own costume business. Inquiries start coming in before we've even officially opened. Miss Janet hears about it, obviously. According to Bree, who's still finishing her community service hours, Miss Janet's reaction was basically a meltdown. She called it betrayal and poaching and claimed we're trying to destroy her studio deliberately. She told me I'm not welcome back after my hours are done, Bree says during one of our planning meetings. Said I've shown my true colors by siding with people who want to hurt her business. You've got 3 weeks left, right? I ask. 2.5. Then keep your head down and finish. After that, you're free. Those last few weeks are rough for Bree. Miss Janet gives her the worst tasks she can think of, and some of the parents have figured out that Bree's connected to me and Jessica, so they treat her coldly too. But she pushes through, and on her last day of community service, she walks out of Miss Janet's studio for the final time and comes straight to our new workshop space. We've rented a small commercial unit in a strip mall. It's not fancy, but it's got good light, plenty of space for sewing stations, and a small area up front that can serve as a consultation room. Bree walks in and just stops, taking it all in. "This is real," she whispers. "Yeah," I say, "this is real." We spend the evening setting up her workstation. Bree's still in school, so she can only work afternoons and weekends, but that's enough to start. Jessica's handling consultations and bookings. I'm doing primary design work. Bree's assisting with construction and learning advanced techniques. Our first official client is the redhead mom whose daughter is Sophie's friend. She brings Ava in for a consultation, and Bree takes measurements while I sketch ideas. It's smooth and professional, and when they leave with a down payment and a timeline, I actually feel like we might pull this off. The second week we're open, we get 15 consultation requests. Jessica's booking them back to back, filling our schedule for the next 2 months. Miss Janet's studio starts losing families. Not a flood, but a steady trickle. Parents who are dissatisfied with the drama and politics find our website and realize there's an alternative for custom costume work. One of the families that leaves is Jessica's. She pulls Kelsey from Miss Janet's and enrolls her at the new studio Sophie's attending. When Miss Janet finds out, she apparently tries to convince other parents that Jessica's betraying them all for a business venture. It doesn't work. Most parents don't care about studio politics. They care about their kids having good costumes and good experiences. By month 3, we're fully booked. I've had to reduce my hours at the tattoo shop to keep up with costume work. Jessica's handling all the business operations and client relations. Bree's improving rapidly under my mentorship, taking on more complex construction work. Sophie's thriving at her new studio. She's made new friends and discovered she actually prefers the contemporary style they teach over classical ballet. She tells me she's glad we left Miss Janet's, which makes me feel better about the whole mess. One Saturday, Bree shows me her acceptance letter to the community college's design program. She got in with a partial scholarship based on her portfolio. "I couldn't have done this without you," she says, holding the letter like it might disappear. "You did this yourself," I tell her. "I just gave you an opportunity. You did the work." She's crying happy tears this time. "I'm going to keep working here while I study if that's okay. I don't want to let you guys down." "You couldn't let us down if you tried," Jessica says, walking over to hug Bree. "You're part of this team." It's a weird moment. 3 people who shouldn't work together, who came together through sabotage and accusations and drama, building something real. That night, I get a text from an unknown number. It's Miss Janet. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything I built. My studio's barely surviving because of what you did." I stare at the text for a long time before responding. "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped tolerating being treated badly. What you're experiencing is consequences." She doesn't text back. Over the next few months, Miss Janet's studio continues declining. Families leave for other studios, not just because of costume options, but because the toxic culture has become obvious. When parents feel like they might be judged or excluded based on appearances or socioeconomic status, they take their kids elsewhere. I don't feel good about it, exactly. I never wanted to hurt her business, but I also don't feel guilty. She created this situation through years of exploiting people and fostering an environment where appearance and wealth mattered more than talent or character. One afternoon, a family walks into Stage Wings for a consultation. Their daughter has a solo coming up, and they heard we do good work. When I meet with them and see the performance piece they're planning, I get excited. It's an ambitious contemporary piece that needs a really technical costume design. We're halfway through the consultation when Miss Janet walks into our studio. Everyone freezes. The family looks confused. Jessica's expression hardens. Bree literally ducks behind a dress form like she's trying to disappear. "I need to talk to you," Miss Janet says to me, ignoring everyone else. "We're in the middle of a consultation," I say evenly. "This won't take long." The family looks uncomfortable. I apologize and ask if they can give us a moment. They step outside to look at fabric samples, clearly relieved to escape the tension. Miss Janet waits until they're gone, then says, "I want to hire you." Whatever I was expecting, it wasn't that. "Excuse me? As the studio's official costume designer, I'll pay you a percentage of all costume fees, give you exclusive rights to dress my students for performances. You'd make good money and you'd get exposure to hundreds of students." I glance at Jessica and Bree. They both look as shocked as I feel. "Why would I do that?" I ask. "Because it's good business. You'd have guaranteed work year-round. No more hustling for individual clients." "I'm not hustling. We're fully booked for the next 3 months." Her jaw tightens. "Then consider it reparations. You said I treated you unfairly. I'm offering you something valuable to make up for it." This isn't an apology. This is you trying to get access to something you want. Does it matter? You'd benefit either way. I shake my head. "I'm not interested. We're building something independent here. Something where we don't have to worry about politics or being judged by our appearance or background. I'm not giving that up to work for someone who treated me like a predator." Miss Janet's face flushes red. I was protecting my students. You are making assumptions based on how I look. There's a difference. She opens her mouth to argue, then seems to realize she won't win this. Instead, she tries a different approach. What about Bree? She owes me. I gave her a chance when no one else would. Bree steps out from behind the dress form, and I'm proud to see she's standing tall instead of shrinking away. You exploited me, Bree says quietly. You promised me things you never intended to deliver. And when I made a mistake because of how you treated me, you turned my consequence into revenge. I don't owe you anything. Miss Janet looks between the three of us. You're all going to regret this. When I tell everyone what Bree did, then I'll tell everyone what you did, I interrupt. About how you strung along a minor for 8 months with false promises, how you exploited her free labor, how you violated the terms of her community service by making her do degrading punishment tasks. No one will care about that. Parents will, especially parents who've wondered if you're treating their kids fairly. You think people don't notice how you favor wealthy families? How you give better roles and more attention to students whose parents donate the most money? She's shaking now, whether from anger or fear I can't tell. This conversation is over. Yeah, I agree, it is. She leaves and we all stand there in stunned silence for a moment. Jessica speaks first. Well, that was dramatic. Bree's shaking. She's going to tell everyone what I did. She's going to destroy everything. No, she's not, I say. Because if she does, she destroys herself too. She's not stupid. She knows that. The family comes back in and we finish their consultation. They book us for the costume, and as they're leaving, the mom says, I hope everything's okay. That woman seemed pretty upset. Just someone who doesn't like competition, Jessica says smoothly. Nothing to worry about. After they leave, the three of us sit down and talk through what just happened. We all agree that Miss Janet's appearance at our studio was her last-ditch attempt to regain control. When that didn't work, she tried threats, but we held firm. She's not going to tell anyone about the costumes, Jessica says confidently. She's bluffing. How do you know? Bree asks. Because her studio is already struggling. If she exposes you, she exposes herself. And right now, the narrative is that parents are leaving because they don't like her management style. If she adds, I exploited a teenager and drove her to sabotage to that narrative, she's done. Over the next week, Miss Janet doesn't say anything publicly. She doesn't tell anyone about Bree's sabotage. She just fades into the background noise of the local dance community. Meanwhile, Stage Wings grows. We hire another seamstress to help with the workload. Jessica starts looking into expanding to a bigger space. Bree gets accepted into community college and enrolls in 3 design courses for her first semester. Sophie continues loving her new studio. She's preparing for her first recital there, and I'm designing her costume. Nothing too elaborate, just something that makes her feel special while allowing freedom of movement. One evening, as I'm working on Sophie's costume in our studio, Bree comes in to practice some advanced beading techniques I've been teaching her. We work in comfortable silence for a while. Can I ask you something? She finally says, Sure. Why did you help me? Really? After what I did, most people would have just let me fail. I think about how to answer that, because I've been judged my whole life based on how I look. People see the tattoos and the beard and the leather jacket, and they make assumptions about who I am. They don't see the art or the skill or the hours of work I put into my craft. They just see someone who doesn't fit their expectations. I set down the costume I'm working on. You made a terrible mistake because someone with power over you exploited that power. You were 17 and angry and hurt. That doesn't excuse what you did, but it explains it. And I think everyone deserves a chance to be more than their worst moment. Bree's quiet for a long time. Thank you, she finally says, for seeing more than just what I did. Thank you for proving me right, I say. You're talented and hardworking. You're going to do amazing things. As we get back to work, I think about how weird life is. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a dance studio corner being glared at by judgmental moms. Now I'm running a growing business with 2 unlikely partners. My daughter's thriving, and I'm doing work I actually love. A few weeks later, we get hired for a major project. A studio 3 towns over wants us to design costumes for their entire Nutcracker production. 47 costumes ranging from party guests to snowflakes to Sugar Plum Fairy. It's a huge undertaking, but the pay is substantial, and the exposure would be incredible. Jessica negotiates the contract. I create the design concepts. Bree assists with measurements and starts working on the simpler pieces under my supervision. We hire 2 more seamstresses part-time to help with the workload. The project consumes our lives for 2 months. Early mornings and late nights, weekends at the studio, rush orders for specialty fabrics. But when we deliver the costumes and see them on stage during the performance, it's worth it. The Nutcracker is beautiful. The costumes get compliments from audience members and dancers alike. The studio director tells everyone who will listen about Stage Wings, and suddenly we're getting inquiries from studios across the entire region. One inquiry comes from a prestigious academy in the city, an hour's drive away. They want us to design costumes for their spring showcase, a high-profile event that gets reviewed by local media and attended by industry professionals. This could really put us on the map, Jessica says during our planning meeting. It's a lot of pressure, I point out. High profile means high expectations. We can handle it, Bree says. We've been handling everything else. She's right. Over the past months, we've proven we can deliver quality work under pressure. We've built a reputation for creativity, professionalism, and reasonable pricing. We're not just the scrappy upstart anymore. We're a legitimate business. We take the project. Designing for the prestigious academy is intense. Their artistic director has specific vision requirements, and their dancers are at a much higher technical level than most studios we've worked with. The costumes need to be both beautiful and capable of withstanding really demanding choreography. I spend weeks perfecting the designs. Bree works on constructing sample pieces to test movement. Jessica handles the logistics of coordinating with the Academy's production team. During this time, Sophie has her recital at her new studio. Her contemporary piece is beautiful, and the costume I designed for her works perfectly. As I watch her perform, I realize how far we've both come. She's more confident as a dancer. I'm more confident as a designer. After the recital, several parents from Sophie's new studio approach me about costume work. I take their information and book consultations. StageWings has been operating for 6 months now, and we've already outgrown our initial space. We need to move, Jessica announces at our next business meeting. This space was fine for starting out, but we need more room, more workstations, a proper consultation area. We start looking at larger commercial spaces. Bree's worried about the increased rent, but Jessica shows us the financials. We're profitable enough to afford it, and the additional space will allow us to take on more projects. We find a perfect location. It's a former bridal shop with great natural light, built-in display areas, and enough square footage for multiple workstations plus a real reception area. Moving the business takes a full week. We pack up machines, fabric inventory, supplies, and furniture. On our first day in the new space, the three of us stand in the middle of the empty main room and just look around. This is really happening, Bree says. Yeah, I agree. It really is. We spend the next 2 weeks setting up the new studio. Jessica designs the layout for maximum efficiency. I handle the aesthetic elements, painting accent walls and setting up display areas. Bree organizes all our fabric and supply inventory into the new storage room. When we finally open for business in the new location, we have a small launch event. We invite past clients, local studio owners, and some press from the community arts section of the paper. Sophie helps by greeting guests and handing out promotional materials. Miss Janet doesn't come, obviously, but almost everyone else does. The turnout is better than we expected. During the event, one of the guests is a buyer for a regional theater company. She approaches me with her business card. I've been hearing about your work, she says. We're always looking for talented costume designers for our productions. Would you be interested in bidding on some projects? Theater work. That's a whole different level from dance costumes, but it's also an incredible opportunity. Absolutely, I say, taking her card. I'd love to discuss it. The event's success leads to a surge of new inquiries. Our booking calendar fills up for the next 4 months. Jessica starts talking about hiring full-time staff instead of just part-time help. Bree starts her first semester of college. She's managing school and work impressively well, always showing up for her shifts and completing her assignments on time. Her design skills improve dramatically with formal training backing up her natural talent. One afternoon, she shows me a project she's working on for class. It's a costume design for a contemporary dance piece, and it's sophisticated and innovative, better than a lot of professional work I've seen. Bree, this is incredible, I tell her honestly. She beams. My professor said the same thing. She asked if she could use it as an example for future students. That's a huge compliment. I've been thinking, she says carefully. After I graduate, I'd like to go to a 4-year program. Major in costume design, maybe minor in business. You should, I encourage. You've got the talent. But I don't want to leave StageWings. This place, she gestures around the studio. This is home. You guys gave me a chance when I didn't deserve one. You'll always have a place here, Jessica says, joining our conversation. She's been listening from her desk area. Whether you're working full-time or just consulting on projects while you pursue other opportunities, you're part of this. Bree tears up. She does that less now, but emotional moments still get her. The prestigious Academy project comes together beautifully. We deliver all the costumes 3 weeks before their showcase, giving them plenty of time for any needed adjustments. The artistic director is thrilled with the work, especially the innovative wing design I created for their ethereal spirits section. On opening night, Jessica, Bree, and I attend the showcase. We sit in the audience and watch our costumes come to life on stage. It's surreal seeing our work performed at this level. The technical precision of the dancers combined with the quality of our designs creates something genuinely magical. During intermission, multiple audience members approach us asking about our business. Several are parents of dancers at other high-level studios. A few are industry professionals who work in theater and film. By the end of the night, we've handed out dozens of business cards and booked 3 new consultations. The local arts reviewer mentions our costumes specifically in her write-up of the showcase. The costume designed by StageWings elevated the performance to professional caliber. Each piece demonstrated both artistic vision and technical expertise. That review gets shared widely on social media. Our website traffic spikes. We get inquiries from studios in neighboring states. We need to think about scaling, Jessica says during our next business meeting. We can't take all this work ourselves. We need to build a team. Over the next month, we hire 3 full-time seamstresses and a part-time business assistant. Our little startup is becoming a real company with employees and systems and growth projections. Sophie turns 8. For her birthday, she asks if she can have a party at the Stagewing studio. She wants to show her school friends where Daddy works. We throw her a birthday party in our consultation area. 8-year-olds running around looking at fabric samples and costume sketches. Bree teaches them basic sewing stitches on scrap material. Jessica organizes games. I make sure no one accidentally cuts themselves on anything sharp. It's chaotic and loud and perfect. At one point, Sophie pulls me aside. Daddy, are you happy? Yeah, baby, I'm really happy. Why? You smile more now. At the old dance place, you always looked sad when the moms were mean, but now you smile all the time. I hug her tight. Kids notice everything. As Stagewings continues growing, Miss Janet's studio continues declining. I hear through the grapevine that she's considering selling or closing entirely. Part of me feels bad about that. I never wanted to destroy her business. But another part of me remembers sitting in parking lots while Sophie pressed her face against windows, crying because Daddy couldn't watch her dance. Actions have consequences. One day, a former student of Miss Janet's shows up at Stagewings for a consultation. She's aging out of children's programming and starting a contemporary company. She needs costumes for her debut showcase. During the consultation, she mentions Miss Janet's studio. It's so different now. Half the students are gone. Miss Janet barely teaches anymore. She mostly just sits in her office looking stressed. That's rough, I say neutrally. It's her own fault, though, the girl continues. Everyone knows she drove away her best families by being so rigid and judgmental. My mom says Miss Janet forgot that running a studio is about the kids, not her ego. After she leaves, Bree says, "Do you think we destroyed her studio?" No, I say firmly. She destroyed her studio. We just stopped participating in it. Jessica nods. She created an environment where people felt judged and undervalued. When an alternative appeared, people chose it. That's not destruction. That's competition. A few weeks later, a girl's costume arrives at our studio. The family that ordered it months ago scheduled a final fitting. The girl is doing a solo at a major regional competition, and this costume needs to be perfect. It is perfect. The fit is exact. The embellishments catch light beautifully. The construction is solid enough to withstand vigorous choreography. When the girl puts it on and moves through some of her routine, everyone in the studio stops to watch. This is art, her mom says, eyes shining. This is absolutely art. That's when I realize we've made it. We're not just making costumes. We're creating art that helps dancers perform at their best. The regional competition happens on a Saturday. Multiple families wearing Stagewings costumes are competing. Jessica, Bree, and I attend to watch our work perform and to offer any emergency repairs if needed. The girl wearing the costume we perfected wins her age division. When she accepts her trophy, she thanks her choreographer, her teacher, and the amazing people at Stagewings who designed this incredible costume. We get a standing ovation from the other Stagewings families in attendance. That competition win generates more publicity than any advertising could. Videos of the performance get shared online, with people commenting about the beautiful costume design. Our social media gets tagged repeatedly. Inquiries flood in. During this growth period, Bree completes her first semester of college with a 4.0 GPA. She's balancing school, work, and her personal life successfully. Her confidence has grown tremendously since that day she was crying in the parking lot. I got offered an internship, she tells us one day, at a theater company in the city, summer intensive program. That's incredible, Jessica exclaims. You should absolutely take it. But what about Stagewings? Summer is busy season. We'll manage, I assure her. This is a career opportunity. You can't pass it up. She takes the internship. During her time at the theater company, she learns advanced techniques that she brings back to Stagewings. The internship director is so impressed with her work that he offers her a part-time position, continuing through the school year. Bree's success feels like a validation of the second chance philosophy that built Stagewings. She's proof that people can recover from mistakes and build something meaningful. As winter approaches, we're approached by a major dance competition organization. They want Stagewings to design costumes for their national championship showcase piece. It's a prestigious opportunity with exposure to thousands of dancers and industry professionals. The project is massive, a 10-minute showcase piece featuring 20 dancers in elaborate costumes that transform throughout the performance. The technical requirements are complex and the timeline is tight. We take it anyway. The next 3 months are the most intense work period we've experienced. I'm designing transformation mechanisms into costumes. Bree's using techniques she learned at her theater internship to create quick change elements. Jessica's coordinating with the choreographer and ensuring we stay on schedule and budget. We hire additional temporary help to meet the deadline. Our studio becomes a 24/7 operation during the final 2 weeks before delivery. Sophie spends a lot of time at the studio during this period. Because I don't have childcare flexibility, she does homework in the break room and sometimes helps organize small supplies. She's proud to be part of it. The costumes get delivered on time, all 20 pieces complete with transformation elements and backup pieces for emergencies. The competition organizers are thrilled. At the national championship, the showcase piece is the finale. We're in the audience, exhausted but excited, watching our most ambitious project come to life. The performance is stunning. The dancers are incredible and the costumes work flawlessly. Each transformation happens exactly as designed, drawing gasps from the audience. The combination of choreography, music, and visual design creates something genuinely breathtaking. The audience gives a 5-minute standing ovation. The competition director finds us afterward. "That was extraordinary. We want Stage Wings to be our official costume designer for next year's championship." Jessica accepts on behalf of our team. That national championship exposure changes everything. We're no longer a regional costume shop. We're a recognized brand in the competitive dance community. Inquiries come from across the country. We have to make decisions about how to scale without losing the quality and personal attention that built our reputation. Jessica proposes opening a second location in the city. I suggest focusing on establishing our brand before expanding physically. Bree recommends developing a hybrid model where we take on a certain number of high-profile projects while also maintaining our local client base. We choose Bree's suggestion. As Stage Wings grows, I gradually reduce my hours at the tattoo shop until eventually I leave entirely. The costume design business now generates enough income to be my sole career. It's weird leaving tattoo art after 15 years, but also exciting to focus entirely on costume design. Sophie's thriving in her dance program. She's discovered a love for contemporary and modern styles. Her teachers comment on her natural artistry and emotional expression in movement. One day, she asks if I can design costumes for her studio's spring recital. The artistic director has already contracted with another designer, but Sophie wants Daddy's work. I talk to the artistic director and we reach an arrangement where I'll design costumes for a few select pieces, including Sophie's, while their regular designer handles the rest. It's a good compromise that lets me create something special for my daughter without stepping on anyone's professional toes. Bree graduates from community college with honors. She's been accepted to 3 different 4-year programs for costume design. She chooses the one that offers the best balance of reputation and allows her to continue working at Stage Wings part-time. During her graduation party, which we host at the Stage Wings studio, I give a toast. 3 years ago, Bree made a mistake, a big one. But instead of defining her by that mistake, we chose to see her potential. Tonight, we're celebrating a talented designer with a bright future ahead of her. We're celebrating someone who took a second chance and built something meaningful with it. Bree's crying happy tears again. Her family's there, clearly proud. Her mom pulls me aside later. "You changed my daughter's life," she says. "She was heading down a bad path, angry at everyone and everything. You gave her purpose." "She gave herself purpose," I correct gently. "I just gave her an opportunity." As Stage Wings enters its 4th year of operation, we've established ourselves as a premier costume design company in the region. We have a team of 10 full-time employees, plus several part-time designers and seamstresses. We've moved to an even larger space with dedicated areas for design, construction, fitting, and administration. Miss Janet's studio closes after operating for 23 years. The announcement comes through a simple email to former students and families. Due to changing market conditions and personal considerations, Miss Janet's Academy will cease operations effective June 30th. I don't feel triumphant. I feel nothing, really. Her studio's closure isn't my victory. It's just the natural consequence of how she chose to run her business. Several families from her studio reach out to us looking for costume services for their new studios. We accommodate them as much as possible within our schedule. One person I don't hear from is Miss Janet herself. No apology, no acknowledgement, no attempt at reconciliation, just silence. Sophie turns 11. She's in middle school now, still dancing, but also exploring other interests like art and theater. She talks about maybe designing costumes like Daddy when she grows up, or maybe designing sets, or maybe doing something completely different. "You can be whatever you want," I tell her, "as long as you're kind to people and work hard. Even if I don't want to do art, even then, your happiness matters more than following in my footsteps." She thinks about that, then says, "I think I want to do art though. Just maybe not exactly the same art as you." That's perfect. Bree finishes her bachelor's degree and immediately gets hired by a major theater company. She works there for 2 years before Broadway producers notice her work. At 23, she's designing costumes for an off-Broadway production. She still consults for Stage Wings on major projects. We're still in touch regularly. She's still proof that second chances matter. Jessica's son starts dance classes. Watching her be a dance mom is hilarious because she's hyper-aware of all the dynamics that she used to participate in. She actively shuts down gossip, welcomes parents who don't fit the typical mold, and makes sure everyone feels included. "I was such an ass," she tells me one day while we're reviewing quarterly financials. "You were," I agree, "but you changed. Because you didn't let me off easy. You called me on my shit. Someone needed to." Stage Wings continues growing. We're approached by a costume design software company about partnering on a digital tool for dancers to virtually try on costume designs. The project excites me because it combines my artistic skills with new technology. Sophie's in high school now. She's still dancing, but also doing doing theater tech. She's learning lighting design and sound engineering. She tells me she likes being behind the scenes more than performing. You get to make other people look good, she explains. That's really cool. I think about how appropriate that is for my daughter. She learned from watching me design costumes that making others shine is its own form of artistry. One day, a woman walks into Stagewings for a consultation. She's starting a new dance studio and needs someone to design all her costumes for the first year. As we talk, I realize I recognize her. She used to teach at Miss Janet's Academy. You taught Sophie, I remember. I did. She was a sweet kid. Still dancing? Yeah, but also doing theater tech. She smiles. That tracks. She was always creative. She pauses. I wanted to apologize, actually. I was there when everything went down with the recital and the costumes. I didn't speak up for you when I should have. It was a complicated situation. It wasn't that complicated. You were being treated unfairly, and I was too afraid of Miss Janet to say anything. I stayed for 2 more years after that, watching her treat people badly before I finally quit. I should have left sooner, should have stood up sooner. You're doing it now, I point out. Starting your own studio, building something better. Trying to, anyway. That's why I'm here. I want my studio to be everything Miss Janet's wasn't. Inclusive, professional, focused on the kids instead of the politics. And I want costumes that reflect that. I can work with that vision. We end up designing costumes for her entire first-year curriculum. Simple but well-made pieces that prioritize movement and comfort while still being beautiful. Affordable enough that every family can participate without financial stress. Her studio launches successfully. Within a year, she has a waiting list for enrollment. The parents love that it's drama-free, she tells me during a follow-up consultation. They love that their kids are judged by their effort and improvement, not by their family's income or status. That's how it should be. That's how you helped show me it could be. Stagewings celebrates its 5th anniversary with a showcase event. We invite clients, display some of our most ambitious costume designs, and host mini consultations for prospective customers. The event is packed. During the showcase, I see Bree walk in. She's flown in from New York specifically for this event. She looks sophisticated and confident, a far cry from the crying teenager in the parking lot. You made it. I give her a hug. I wouldn't miss this. Stagewings is where everything changed for me. She gives a short speech about her journey, about how a second chance and mentorship transformed her life, about how mistakes don't have to define you if you're willing to do the work to change. Afterward, a young girl approaches her, maybe 16 or 17. I made a really bad mistake, the girl says quietly. I'm trying to fix it, but I don't know if people will give me a chance. Bree kneels down to her level. They will if you show them you're serious about changing. Find someone who believes in second chances. Be honest about what you did and why. Then work harder than you've ever worked to prove they were right to believe in you. The girl nods, tears in her eyes. I watch this interaction and realize this is the real legacy of Stagewings. Not the beautiful costumes or the successful business. The legacy is what we've shown people about redemption and second chances. Sophie's graduating high school next year. She's been accepted to a technical theater program at a respected arts college. She's planning to major in lighting design with a minor in costume technology. I want to understand all aspects of making shows work, she explains. Not just one piece. You're going to be amazing, I tell her. I learned from the best. As Stagewings moves into its 6th year, we're stable and successful. We have steady clients, a strong reputation, and a team that works well together. We're not chasing explosive growth anymore. We're focused on maintaining quality and serving our community. The competition win that started everything feels like a lifetime ago. The band dad sitting in parking lots feels like a different person. One afternoon, I'm working on a particularly complex costume design when I get an email from an unknown address. The subject line is "Thank you." I open it cautiously. You don't know me, but I heard your story from a friend about how you were judged for your appearance at a dance studio and how you turned that experience into something positive. I'm a single dad who just enrolled my daughter in dance classes, and I was feeling really out of place among all the moms. Your story helped me realize I belong there just as much as anyone else. Thank you for not giving up. I read the email 3 times. This is why I do this work. Not for the money or the recognition or the success. For moments like this where someone feels a little less alone because of my story, I reply to the email, encouraging him to keep showing up for his daughter, to ignore the stares and the whispers, to be himself. That evening, I pick up Sophie from her tech theater rehearsal. She's animated, talking about the lighting design she's working on for their spring production. The director wants this really dramatic storm effect, she explains. I'm using these cool, intelligent lights that can change color and direction on cue. It's going to look amazing. I can't wait to see it. Will you come to opening night? Sophie, I've been to every single one of your performances since you were 7. Why would I miss this one? She grins. Just checking. At home, while Sophie does homework, I sketch costume ideas for an upcoming project. The design flows easily, years of practice making the process almost meditative. My phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Major inquiry just came in. Film production company wants to consult about costume design for a period piece. Interested? I text back, send details. Film work. That's a new frontier. But that's what Stagewings has always been about. Taking opportunities, pushing boundaries, proving that talent matters more than appearances or assumptions.